This is the story of the rebuilding of a 1981 J30 that I recently bought from an estate. And hopefully, I can show some of the work and how I've gone about it, and certainly taking advantage of all the information that's available from the J30 website and all the work that everyone else has done previously. Here you can see the signs of the grounding. That was the first big surprise that we got when we pulled the boat. And this was just part of the damage. So this is the second part. This is the back of the bilge. Okay, ripped out the sole of my J30 that's new to me, but been around since 1981. It's hull number 281. Just got most of the sole out. It hurts me badly to tear up this deck, but when you see what this looks like underneath, it just becomes painfully obvious that this needs to happen. As you can see here, we literally have standing water down here. So essentially, this is an underground lake. And I'm going to have to check, but I think vermiculite is something. Don't the landscapers use this as to fill their pots? And I suspect this stuff helps wick the moisture around. And as you can see in the balsa here, it didn't do any good thing. This stuff, the balsa is completely saturated. The vermiculite is clearly porous, and like I said, no good thing is happening with this stuff in the bottom of the boat. What I'm thinking, or starting to get my head around, is building a new sole that has some ventilation right through the sole itself, some long slots, and probably not going to replace this with teak. I just can't stand the idea of spending $35 a board foot, and as much as I like this stuff, it's just not worth it. I'm kind of thinking right now the sole is going to come back as epoxy covered quarter sawn white oak. Might figure out some ways to put some accent in it, but whatever I do will be completely done with an epoxy coating so that it's relatively impervious. And also we'll make sure that this back section here has a way to lift out so that you could in fact get down there and dry it out with a rag or whatever when it did finally become wet. I mean, my boat gets wet from the multiple leaks that I have to deal with in the overhead. But this area right here is, you know, anytime the hatch is open and it's raining, is going to get wet. And here in the Northwest, that's a pretty common thing. And so we'll deal with that. Not too bad. I'm not looking forward to getting these corner areas removed. They've been saw cut above, and I may end up doing a secondary cut just to be able to extract this stuff. But what I've been using is my multi-tool with an abrasive blade somewhere. Not sure where I threw it. I tried a couple different techniques and to cut this floor, including a big router, and that didn't work very well. Ultimately ended up using the skill saw and the abrasive tool. Aha! And I don't know if you can... Actually, that's got a wood blade in it right now, but I've been using, for all the fiberglass, this blade intended for working on grout has done a reasonably good job of cutting through that the fiberglass tub. So that took time, but it worked pretty well.
And now what I'll have to do is get in and cut these small sections along the edge out and figure out how to get those out. But that's easy compared to these big sections. It did not, there was just enough adhesion between the vermiculite and the floor and the hull to make pulling that stuff out really, really hard. It'll be hot tub time for sure tonight after dealing with that. And then I got to figure out how to, if there's any easier way to chip this stuff out. It does not like to volunteer, that's for sure. So that's where we are now. I'll get a shot here in a second of the some of the deck section that I pulled out, and you can get a little better idea of what it looks like. Here's the would be the starboard side. The cooler hose, drain hose. Got one knows if that thing was helping drain water into the, and I don't say it was, because that looks like a crack right there in that hose line. So another source of water into the false bilge. Plan is to save these pieces so that I have some idea what to do or how to go about building the new sole. And that'll be a relatively easy project for me. I'm a woodworker, so that's no big challenge. Taking a look around the boat, got no end of blister issues. I think, I don't know if this is going to show up. I'm not over here. This is going to be better. That's a little better. The rudder. So we'll grind that all down and epoxy it. And I think that's going to be the case for the entire hull. Have now ground off all or a lot of the filler that was on this keel because we had a massive grounding on this thing. So there's about 10 pounds of filler that's been ground out. Boat has had some previous work done back here. I don't know if the camera can get it, but yeah, that shows up. Clearly there's been some core work done back here. Hopefully it's not been wrecked by the water sitting above it on the other side. We're getting a survey next week, so we'll learn more about the sins of the previous owners. Using a 36 grit disc on a 4.5 inch angle grinder to take this stuff off. It's messy, but it's not horrible. But it needs to all go. Years of neglect are showing their, or rearing their heads, as it were. No other damage. There's a very small crack back here, but considering the impact that the front of the keel took, that's minor, and I suspect that's all in some filler, but we'll know more soon. And the adventure continues. Here's the starboard side of the keel, and you can see why I'm grinding this all the way down to metal. You can see how the water has actually gotten in behind that filler and degraded the bond. So I'm going to grind until I see a good bond between the filler and the metal, and then we'll go the other way at some point in time. I haven't really figured out a good way to get at the bottom of this thing. I think that's going to have to happen when we go back in the water next spring sometime, but if we can think of a way, maybe we'll try it, but I'm not seeing a good safe way to do that, short of building some secondary stands with jacks to try to lift this thing, which would be nice. It'd be nice to be able to get this all done and ready so it's just a hoist into the water deal, but I'm just not seeing that happening. Here's the other side of the keel. Again, you can see that crack. I think that is all in filler, but because the repair that was done before is goes beyond that, so I think we're going to be okay, but don't know. There's no signs so far that I've seen of the cracking coming all the way through the hull, but clearly the impact was significant enough to flex the bottom of the boat pretty big time. I don't know if you can see this, but I just chipped in underneath the step here, and I got a little running river that came through, so I'm starting to get somewhere that's got some water. And while I don't have a chipping gun, I'm thinking that would be the way to do this. I'm just using the end of the crowbar and following the contour of the hull and chipping, and I'll tell you what, that's some serious hard work. Anyway, like I said, we're getting water from new places here, so maybe we broke the dam.